Hi, I'm Alec. I'm a psychologist with 20 years of experience. I hold a degree in this work. And what you are about to hear is a real story, anonymous, personal, the kind someone told me in this office. I changed the names, the details, the voices, but I didn't change the pain and I didn't change the truth. I share these stories not because I'm allowed to, but because somewhere right now, someone is sitting in the dark, thinking they are alone, that no one would understand, that it's too shameful to even ask for help. These stories are not advice, they are mirrors. Look into them. If you see yourself or someone you love, then this recording is not an accident. Like this video, if you believe that silence kills more often than mistakes do. And subscribe, because the next story is already waiting outside the door. Let's begin. There is a specific kind of silence that exists inside a truck cab at 3 a.m. It's not peaceful, it's the silence of a man who is alone with a secret he can no longer carry. That man was Steve. When Steve first walked into my office, he didn't sit on the couch. He stood by the window, looking down at the parking lot. He had these large, calloused hands, the hands of men who hauls lumber across state lines for 14 hours a day. But his eyes looked like they hadn't slept in 10 years. He said, "Doc, if I tell you this, you have to promise me you won't tell me to leave her, because I won't. I'd rather die than leave her." I said, "Steve, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to listen." He sat down. And then he told me about the 2 lives of Steve, the truck driver. Let me paint the first life for you, the public life. Steve has been married to Rebecca for 18 years. They met at a country fair. She was working the cotton candy machine, and he won her a giant, ugly stuffed panda by throwing baseballs at milk bottles. She still has that panda. It sits on their bed, worn and flat. They have 3 kids. Anna is 16. She wants to be a vet, but thinks she can't afford the college. Twins, Michael and Luke, are 13. Good boys. Messy, loud. On paper, the family lives below the poverty line. They rent a small ranch house on the edge of a town that doesn't have a traffic light. The roof leaks in the kitchen. The minivan has 180,000 miles and makes a noise Rebecca calls the prayer rattle, because she prays every time she starts it. Rebecca cleans houses for a living. She wakes up at 4 a.m., packs lunch, drives the kids to the bus stop, then spends 8 hours scrubbing other people's toilets. She comes home with red hands and a smile that breaks my heart just thinking about it. Every Sunday they go to church. They sit in the third pew. Rebecca wears the same blue dress she's worn for 6 years. Steve wears his only pair of non-work boots. They hold hands during the sermon. They look like a postcard of a struggling American family trying their best. But here is the thin Alec. There was the lie, because the second life started the moment Steve crossed the state line. Steve makes good money, better than good, with the overtime, the hazard pay, the mileage bonuses. Steve should be driving a new truck. His wife shouldn't be scrubbing toilets. His daughter should be visiting vet school. So, where does the money go? Every night, after he parks his rig at a rest stop or a truck station, after he kisses the phone screen goodnight to Rebecca, Steve opens his laptop. He connects to the truck stop Wi-Fi and he enters the digital casino. It starts small, $100, just to feel something. Then the algorithm gives him a win, a big win. His heart pounds for 5 minutes. He is a king. He buys Rebecca a virtual necklace in his head. He pays off the roof. But the win is the trap. He chases it. He deposits 200, then 5, then 1,000. He maxes out a credit card, then a second card, then he takes a loan from his 401k. That, he tells himself, is a bridge loan. By the time the sun rises, Steve has lost everything again. He closes the laptop. He looks at his hands. They are shaking. He bangs his forehead against the steering wheel. Not hard enough to bruise, just hard enough to feel something real. He calls Rebecca. Hey, honey, long day, love you. I never tells her. She thinks he makes 60,000 a year. He makes 120. The missing 60,000. It goes into the glowing slot machine in his pocket. This went on for 7 years. The breaking point didn't come with a bang. It came with a whimper. It was a Tuesday. Rebecca had just finished a 12-hour shift cleaning a 4-story mansion for a woman who complained about smudge on a window. She came home, sat at the kitchen table, and opened the bills. Anna needed new glasses. Michael had a cavity. The water heater was leaking. Steve was on the road. He was parked outside Boise, Idaho. He had just lost $4,000 in 45 minutes. He had $600 left in his checking account. Rebecca called him. He saw her name on the screen. He left it ring. She left a voicemail. I have the transcript of that voicemail. Steve played it for me in a session. He had saved it for 3 months. He made me listened to it. Rebecca's voice. Steve, honey, I know you are driving. I found a credit card bill in the garage behind the paint cans. It has your name on it. It has $17,000 on it. I don't understand. I'm not mad. I'm just confused. Call me, please. I love you. Steve didn't call her for 3 days. He drove to Canada and back in silence. He did not gamble. He did not eat. He just drove. And he thought about the math. 17,000 on that card, 22 on another. The loan, the missing money from the joint account he had fondled away. He realized for the first time that he hadn't just borrowed money. He had stolen from his children's mouths. Every time Anna asked for $5 for school trip and he said, "We can't afford it," that was a lie he told to cover a bet. Every time Rebecca skipped lunch to save $3 for gas, she was subsidizing his addiction. He pulled over at a rest stop in Wyoming. It was snowing. He got out of the cab. He stood in the dark, and for the first time in his adult life, Steve prayed. Not the Sunday pew prayer, a real one. He said, "God, if you are real, I am going to kill myself right now. Unless you give me a sign, I have nothing left." He stood there for 10 minutes, freezing. The snow covered his shoulders. No sign came from heaven, but a truck pulled up. Another driver. An old man with a white bird named Earl. Earl rolled down his window and said, "You look like a man who needs a cup of coffee and a phone number." Steve said, "I don't need a coffee." Earl said, "The phone number is for a therapist who works with truckers. He takes calls at 4 a.m. I used him 2 years ago. I had a wallet problem." Steve stared at Earl. "How did you know?" Earl said, "Because I see you staring at the black ice on the highway like it's a welcome mat. Get in the truck, son. I will drive you to the next town." That is how Steve found me. The first 3 months of therapy were not about stopping. They were about truth. I asked him one question. "Does Rebecca know the real number?" Steve said, "No." I said, "Then you are still living in the casino. You are just gambling with silence now." The hardest session we ever had was the day I made him write the letter. Not a breakup letter, an honesty letter. I told him to write down every single loss, every dollar, every lie, every time he chose the slot machine over his daughter's glasses. He wrote 2 hours. When he finished, he was crying. Real crying. The kind that comes from the bottom of your stomach. He said, she will leave me. I said, she might. But you don't get to make that decision for her. You have made every decision for her for 7 years. This one belongs to her. Steve drove home that weekend, not for a load, just for her. He walked into the kitchen. Rebecca was doing dishes. The water was running. She didn't turn around. He said, Becca. She said, I know about the gambling. He froze. How long? She turned off the water. She dried her hands slowly. I have known for 2 years. I found a withdrawal slip in your glove box. I didn't say anything because I thought, if I loved you hard enough, you had stop on your own. Steve said, why didn't you leave? Rebecca turned around. Her face was wet, not with anger, with exhaustion. She said, because I made a promise. But Steve, if you lie to me one more time, I will break that promise. I will take the kids and I will go. I am not afraid of being poor. I am afraid of being married to a host. That was the pivot. Steve didn't get better overnight. He relapsed twice in the first 6 weeks. Once for $300, once for $50. But here is what changed. He didn't hide the relapses. He called me. He called Rebecca. He sat in the truck stop parking lot and said out loud, I just lost $300. I feel like garbage. I need help. And Rebecca did something extraordinary. She did not scream. She did not cry. She drove 6 hours to the truck stop where he was parked. She brought the twins and Anna. They brought a cooler of sandwiches. They sat in the cab of the truck, all 5 of them, and ate dinner. Anna, the 16-year-old, looked at her father. She said, Dad, I did a report on addiction for health class. It's a brain disease. It's not because you don't love us. Steve broke down again. He said, but I stole from you. Anna said, then pay us back. Pay us back by getting better. Steve enrolled in a program for truckers. He installed blocking software on his laptop. He gave Rebecca full access to every bank account. He set up auto transfers for the mortgage, the utilities, the savings account. He made a chart. On the chart, he tracked every day he didn't gamble. Every dollar he saved. He put the chart on the refrigerator. When he hit 30 days, Michael drew a gold star. When he hit 90 days, Luke drew a truck. The financial recovery was slow, painfully slow. For the first year, they still lived below the average. Rebecca still cleaned houses. Still Steve drove 12 hours shifting, but something shifted. The silence in the truck cab changed. At 3 a.m., Steve was not hiding anymore. He was listening to audiobooks. He was calling home just to hear the kids fight over the remote. He was planning. On the 1-year anniversary on his last bed, Steve took the family to dinner. Not a fancy dinner, Pizza Hut, but he paid with cash, real cash, money he had earned and kept. Rebecca looked at him across the table. She said, "You look different." Steve said, "I'm not hiding anymore." The night they went home, the roof still leaked, the minivan still rattled. But Rebecca put her head on his chest, and for the first time in 7 years, she didn't feel a wall. She felt a heartbeat. Two years later, I got a Christmas card from Steve. On the front, a photo of the family in front of the ranch house. New roof. Anna is wearing a sweatshirt from the State University's vet program. Michael and Luke are holding a puppy. Rebecca is smiling. A real smile. Not the scrubbed toilet tired smile, the country fair smile. But here's my question to you, and I want you to sit with it before you answer in the comments. Steve got honest. He stopped gambling. He fixed the roof. But here is the wood that never fully closed. Rebecca still cleans other people's houses. 14 hours a week, red hands, aging back. Steve brings home the paycheck now. Every dollar is accounted for, but he is the reason she had to scrub toilets for 7 extra years. He stole her time, her youth, her Sundays that should have been rest, not church in a borrowed dress. Should Steve hand over every single future paycheck to Rebecca? No questions asked. No our money. No joint account. Just her name on everything. For the next 5 years, as restitution, not because she needs control, but because he owes her every hour she lost on her knees scrubbing floors while he sat in a truck cab, clicking a mouse, burning their future on a screen. Some of you will say, that's not healthy. Marriage is partnership. Forgiveness doesn't come with a price tag. Others will say, he stole. You pay back what you stole. Simple. I don't have the answer. Steve does not either. He asked me last month, Alec, how do you ever make the right when you can't give her back the years? I told him the truth. You can't. So you live with the question. Now I am asking you, what would you tell Steve? Type it in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories of people trying to put themselves back together after breaking everything, hit subscribe. Because this channel is not about easy answers. It's about the drive home at 3 a.m. This is Alec Sessions. See you in the next session.